So today, there's a few thoughts that I've had that I wanted to get across. The first thing I thought I'd mention, let's see, right there, there, up, there we go. That's weird going backwards, but I'm making a vase for my wife. I think she'll like that. And so hopefully that's a good thing. Then the next thing that I want to say is that I've been thinking a lot lately about how Owen, he makes a statement that is really interesting to me. He talks about how when you, excuse me, how evil needs to tell you what it's doing. It needs to tell you, and you need to consent. You need to consent and go along with it. And he brings up how a lot of times people will say lies, and then they repeat those lies until you agree with those lies, whether you know or even when you know they're not true. They want to hear you say that they're not true. They want to hear you say that that's something that's not true. They want your consent in that, and they need to tell you what they're doing. And there's something that rings true to that. And I was thinking about how basically what the war in heaven was about before this life. For those of you who don't know, I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and we have some very specific beliefs about the war before this life. We believe that there was a war in heaven, obviously, and that's common through Christendom, where Satan rebelled against God. But the specifics of that was God revealed his plan for this life, and he revealed how we could have a choice in choosing what we do. Along with that choice comes sin, comes anger, the failure that we will have, and so that plan required a savior, which required Jesus Christ. Satan, he proposed another plan in which he forced and coerced everyone to follow, to be obedient, so that there would be no sin, but there was also no agency. And so the interesting thing the connection that I made tonight, I was thinking about tonight, is how evil needs to tell you what they're doing. And this war in heaven was fought over our agency, was fought over our ability to choose for ourselves. Because with the ability to choose comes the ability to gain experience to grow and to become something better. It also has the ability to fall and to become something worse. And that's one of the reasons why Satan's plan was so seductive to a third of the hosts of heaven, was because he led through fear and telling people that they didn't want to fall and to fail. They didn't want to go through that pain of trial and of struggle. It would be much easier and better to let everybody be taken care of. But that doesn't allow personal growth. That doesn't allow what God wanted us to do, is to become better, is to be risen from a lower state into a higher state. And so the two things that Satan hates us for is the fact that we have bodies, that we have a physical body that he will never have, and that we have our agency, that we can choose. And that's what he attacks on us. That's what he tries to get us to betray. If he can get us to use our agency in a way that betrays what the goal of this life is, then he wins what he wants, and that's the destruction of anything good and virtuous and right. The rebellion against God is what he seeks. And it was just kind of interesting how Owen, coming from a completely different world, I have nothing to do with Hollywood, I have nothing to do with entertainment, I have nothing to do with a lot of that stuff, and Owen coming from a different world saying that we have that evil really needs you to consent to that. It rang true, and I didn't know exactly why. And I think that's one of the things that about it that rings true, is that Satan does want our agency, and most sin revolves around getting us to use our agency to betray what's good, to betray our bodies, to do things that make us worse than what we are. And I don't know, it was just an interesting thing that I thought today. I had a really neat experience with with my daughters. Today we were watching Little House on the Prairie, and everybody was real tired, and we don't we don't usually sit down and watch TV much. We'll watch stuff together every now and then, but it's not too often where we actually just sit down on the couch and watch a movie together. And we were just watching Little House on the Prairie, and it was a tender moment, a tender episode where Laura, the middle daughter, she becomes friends with this girl that's crippled, that has a shorter leg than the other, named Olga. And it was kind of fun to see how the kids were enjoying it and they were into it. But I was just sitting there, and my wife was leaning against me, and the kids were all kind of just snuggled up, and it was just a moment where I just looked at my family and I was like, that's good. I don't know, it's just when you have a family that you love and that you will do anything for, you see things that people can't see without that people don't see. And it's easy for us to focus on the rough sides, why didn't you do this, or oh, you did that and you broke this, or kids are so messy, or kids are so expensive, or I don't have any peace, or I don't get any sleep. And sometimes those things are true. Sometimes it's true that you don't get sleep. Sometimes it's true that things get broken and things get expensive. But it's an injustice to only focus on those things. Because those quiet moments, those tender moments that you have with your kids, with your wife, with your family, those tender moments they're the things that joy comes from. The joy inside that lasts. That joy that lasts, that doesn't just fade with the new song or with the new anything. It's something that actually sticks around. And it fills your heart. It fills it up. And it's just there's so many things in this life that are good for us, that are made for us to be happy. And when we focus on the negative side of things, it's hard to calm down and to take those quiet moments in. It's an interesting thing because our focus, perspective is one of those things that I harp on a lot, I guess, but I always love the idea that reality that we experience is dependent on how we view it. It's dependent on what we view. The attitude that we choose to have shapes the experience that life is. And you can have two people living near identical lives, and one can be in hell and the other one can be in heaven, in a sense, because of the way that they view it. And I think the closer that we get to God, the closer that we become on His path, and the better that we be, the more we see those tender mercies that God bestows upon us. And it comes to a point where we're overwhelmed. We're overwhelmed with His goodness. And that's just something that it's there. It's real. It's tangible. And if you haven't experienced that, if you haven't seen that, or if you haven't seen it in a long time, don't lose hope. It's there. You can find it. It doesn't matter where you're at in life. It doesn't matter if you have kids or if you don't. It doesn't matter if you have a family that supports you, or if you're by yourself. Those things do matter. But regardless of where you're at, God can be next to you. He can find you, and He can be there to give you those tender moments. But a lot of it depends on the way that you choose to use that attitude that you've been given, that agency that you've been given. And a lot of it depends on how willing we are to be humble, to be calm and listen like a little child. That's one of the things that Christ taught, is to to let us to. I loved it. I was out. Okay, so I was listening, one of my youngest son, he's 2, right? And he fell asleep while we were watching this movie, and I after we all finished the movie, my girls got up, and we kneeled down and we said prayers, and he was still asleep. We're just around the ottoman there, and then usually he would like go into bed, after we said prayers and stuff. Well, he was out, and my wife's like, just let him be. And I was like, I don't want him to pee on the ottoman if he wakes up and he pees on himself. He's 2, he's potty trained, but every now and then at nights, And so I thought I'll try and keep him asleep and pick him up and move him into the bed. Well, I didn't do very good at moving him into the bed. He woke up and he was not happy about it, and it was a bit frustrating. But when I was putting him into bed, I was just like, I was trying to get him to settle down and trying to get him to fall asleep, and not much was working. But when I lay down and snuggled next to him, he finally settled down. He finally calmed down, and I don't usually. He's only 2. I don't usually like read the scriptures to him, like at this point I'm trying to get him to sleep, obviously. But I just thought, hey, I'm going to pull out the scriptures. It's Sunday. I wanted to try and read something. And I opened up, I don't remember what it was. It was New Testament. I want to say it was Luke 4 or something like that. But Christ is talking about how when you have a feast and you make a feast, and you after you make a feast, you invite. He's like, don't invite those that are your friends and those that are your rich neighbors, because they'll pay you back. Invite those that are poor and those that don't have any, because they won't be able to pay you back. And then when the resurrection comes, you'll be repaid. Something to that effect was what he was saying. And it was interesting because I haven't read that in a long time. I just opened randomly, but he settled down. I think it was just me talking, but he settled down and he fell asleep. But I've been preparing we're getting ready for Thanksgiving, and there's some families that we're inviting to a dinner thing, and it hit me how gratitude and how doing something for someone else that can't do it for themselves, or that sort of thing, that's where you really can help out. I've been in my life where we didn't have much. We didn't have a lot. I remember I was going to school, and we just had our 2 oldest, and they were 1 and 2, so they were just babies, and we were just it was a tight time. We didn't have a lot. Well, we had purchased a doll for each of them for Christmas, and that was about the limit of what we were going to have for Christmas. We didn't have plans for much else, and we were okay with that because we knew it was just a tight time. We knew we didn't have much, and we knew the girls wouldn't remember much because they were so young, and we wanted to make it a good experience for them, but we weren't planning on giving them really much. There was people in our area, people in our neighborhood, in our ward, that we came home to our house one day, and there was a box on our doorstep, and it was a big box, and they had just put toys for the kids. They had put clothes for the kids, jackets, like brand new jackets for them, for snow jackets that they could use. They put stuff for a Christmas meal, a ham, and clothes for me and for my wife, and it was something that I'll never forget. It's something that you can't repay, but you can pay to others. You can give to others, and it's the type of experience where it changes you, and it makes you better. And I'm grateful for that. And when you're able to go through something like that, where you do everything you can for your family, and you provide for them, but you know you want to do more, and you know you can't, and someone steps in and helps, it's such a delight to feel that love from someone else. They don't need to do that, but they do it. And when you can do that for someone else, that's what Christianity's about. Even if you've done it unto the least of these. That's what Christ said. He had done it unto him. And it's not something that's big and showy. It's not something that you do to be seen. You don't do it to be paid back. You do it because it's right, and because that's what Christ would have you do. And I love these holiday season where we have Thanksgiving. It's all about being grateful. Of Christmas, about the birth of Christ. And you just have a time that, in general, you feel people be giving one with another. You feel people be loving one to another. And that's a beautiful, beautiful time. It doesn't have to be just during that time, obviously, of year, but it's fine to while it's happening, while Christmas time's happening, joy in it. Find joy in it. Be okay with it. Spread that cheer. Be kind to others. Well, that's pretty much all I had. Have a good night.